Sitting down to make this video, I can feel what I think of as the balloon expanding in my chest. And it's not a happy, light balloon. It's like an evil clown balloon. And it's taking up all of the space where oxygen is supposed to go. It's December. So let's talk about holiday triggers. Hi, I'm Jen, and this is from Jen. Real quick, I need to tell you that I'm not a therapist or any sort of trained psychologist. What I am is a person who has lived with and is living with complex PTSD, anxiety, and depression. So when I talk to you about mental health, it's because I'm either dealing with this stuff in real time or I've experienced it in the fairly recent past. And I'm just sharing the knowledge and techniques that have worked for me. In this video, I'm going to touch briefly on what exactly a trigger is in the complex PTSD sense. I'm going to talk about why holidays seem to come with so many trauma reminders. And finally, I'm going to get into some suggestions for coping and maybe even healing through all of this. Trigger is one of those words that's used casually in a lot of different ways. So I want to get really specific about what I mean when I talk about it in this context. That is, for those of us struggling specifically with PTSD, complex PTSD, and related mental health issues like anxiety and depression. Triggers are events or circumstances that remind you of a past trauma and set an autonomic response like fight, flight, freeze, or fawn into motion. I talk about triggers a lot on this channel, but I'm going to link up above one specific video about what it feels like to be triggered. I'll also link that down in the description. In truth, I don't actually know that the holidays do come with more triggers than usual. My research on this actually turned up the fact that, contrary to popular myth, suicide rates are actually lower than normal during the months of November and December. To me though, and I suspect I'm not alone, it feels like the holidays are just an absolute emotional minefield. And I have some theories about why that is. First of all, the holidays are associated with family. And if your complex PTSD is also childhood PTSD, which it is for a lot of us, those familial relationships could very well be at the heart of your trauma. And when that's the case, things aren't simple and beautiful when you think back to Christmases past. They're complicated and painful. Secondly, holidays are stressful. Even when we try to make things as simple as possible, holidays come with busy schedules and big expectations and disrupted routines. I don't know about you, but when I'm starting out stressed and on edge, I'm more easily triggered than when I'm in a more mellow, relaxed sort of state. It's like bumping up against flesh that's already raw. Things that normally wouldn't hurt result in unexpected pain. Third, holiday memories are just imprinted differently. Not only are these holiday memories formed during intense emotional times, especially when we're kids, but they're often revisited year after year and backed up by the same sounds, the same tastes, sights, and smells. There's really no other time of year with so many unique sensory reminders to connect and intensify our memories, and with that, the emotions associated with them. Sometimes even talking about triggers abstractly can bring up uncomfortable feelings and physical responses. So for both you and me, let's take a moment to get really centered and present in the here and now, we're just going to take a few calming breaths. You can close your eyes if you want to, or if that's not comfortable, just soften your gaze or choose an object to focus on, an item in the room or something outside the window, or even your own hands or feet. Turn your attention to your breathing. Breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Hold it, 2, 3, 4. And slowly out, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Again, in, all the way down into your abdomen. Hold it there, 2, 3, 4, and out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2 more. In, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And now breathe normally. We're just going to sit for a sec. Let me tell you about my holiday triggers. Personally, my biggest trigger is travel. When I was a child, Christmas Day often meant being shuttled the 700 miles from my mom's house to my dad's house so that we kids could be with both of them for Christmas. It meant braving icy roads for the 3-hour drive to the nearest major airport, disrupting everyone's schedule when flights were inevitably overbooked or delayed by weather, and then flying alone with my younger brother. I'm feeling my heart beat a little faster, and I'm feeling the guilt and resentment bubble up, even as I just talk about those years. And that's despite the fact that I've refused to travel for Christmas for the past 2.5 decades. A second holiday trigger for me is gifts. Any kid with divorced parents can tell you that gifts are an uncomfortable issue, especially when the 2 family units have extremely different financial situations. Various gift dynamics can leave me feeling like a burden, or feeling misunderstood or unloved, coping with guilt, worried about maintaining relationships, struggling with resentment, and really questioning the legitimacy of my own feelings. And those are far from my only holiday triggers. But what I'm hoping is that those 2 examples might help you hone in on some of your own. Try to notice them as they come up, and in the moment, just register how your body feels as those memories resurface. I try to do that here in my videos just as an example of being aware of and describing those feelings. So you'll hear me do that a lot on this channel. It turns out that my go-tos of avoidance, resentment, and passive aggression are not the best ways of dealing with holiday triggers. I'm not going to tell you that I'm totally over turning to those responses, because I'm definitely not, but I do want to share some better ones that I've encountered over the past few years. And by the way, although none of these involve therapy or medication, both of those things have helped me a lot, and I want to be sure not to make it sound like all trauma can be resolved with this one weird trick from the internet. There is zero shame in getting professional or chemical help when you need it. But if you're looking for things that can help in the current season and in the moment, here are a few coping mechanisms that have worked for me. First, recognizing the trigger and self-calming. A few years ago, I wouldn't have known what a trigger felt like or why I was reacting the way I was. But now that I do, I can say to myself, this is a trigger response. And I can just take a moment to step out of the situation. And once I'm somewhere that feels safer, even if that's just the bathroom or outside the door, I can start to regulate my breathing, just like we did earlier, to quell those autonomic responses. And at the same time, I can tell myself I'm safe, I'm worthy, I'm loved. It's a 3-sentence mantra that I've been practicing for a while now. And sometimes even those last 2 sentences feel like too much. So in that case, I could just say, I'm safe. And that can be enough. And if I'm not in a situation where I can step away, it can help to ground myself through my senses. So you can cycle through mentally naming things you can see, hear, smell, touch, and taste. Or maybe look for red things in the room and mentally name them. Or focus on a single sensation like the feel of the soles of your feet on the floor. All of those things work because they disrupt the brain functions that are telling us to panic by diverting that energy to a new task. Second, you can create your own traditions. If you are triggered year after year by the same traditions, it can help to just create new ones that aren't tied to those past memories. My family has a labor activist elf who demands equal pay in the form of cookies and leaves shoddily wrapped pajamas every Christmas Eve. There was nothing like that in my childhood family. That is unique to my adult family, and I can appreciate it without thinking back to the past. Or every Christmas morning, I get up before the rest of the family. I make a batch of cinnamon rolls and I have my first cup of coffee to the light of the tree while I watch a Netflix Yule log on the TV. I just bask in the silence and alone time. Again, not a holdover from my childhood, but a tradition of my very own that I can look forward to. Another way of dealing with the holiday trauma triggers is to practice self-compassion. This is a new one for me, but as I've mentioned in previous videos, I have been taking this 10-week course in Mindful Self-Compassion. And one of the techniques I found really useful is something called a self-compassion break. A self-compassion break involves recognizing your suffering in the moment and acknowledging it. Just saying to yourself, I'm suffering right now. And once you do that, you can step back a bit and remind yourself that you're not alone, that suffering is part of being human and everyone experiences it. I find it really useful to separate it from myself and say, this is what it feels like to be a person who's suffering. And then finally, you offer yourself the kind of compassion that you might wish a friend who's experiencing the same emotions. You might say, may I be kind to myself? May I find peace? May I give myself what I need in this moment? This 3-step process of mindfulness, common humanity, and self-kindness can be surprisingly powerful for how easy it is, especially as it becomes a habit rather than an exception. And with that, I am also wishing that you be safe and that you be at peace and that you be kind to yourself. And as always, I'm wishing you love and joy and all those good things. And I can't wait to talk to you again.